Good evening, everyone. We will call our December 3rd meeting to order. If you would like, we will begin by, please join me for the moment of silence. Before we begin, though, please silence your phones and other devices so they don't interrupt the flow of business this evening. I'll give you a moment to do that. All right, thank you. Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you, and if you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mr. Smith, announcements.
Announcements for you this evening. So NCDOT has opened the new diverging diamond interchange on Gilead Road, exit 23 on I-77. As part of this new traffic pattern, left turns onto US 21 are also no longer allowed, and motorists must use the U-turn bulbs. We urge everybody to use caution while learning the new traffic pattern. And we want to reiterate that the cones and road markings are temporary while the project is being completed. And NCDOT has let us know they estimate the project will be completed in 2025. If you're curious about how to navigate the new traffic patterns or drive them, or information about the benefits of a diverging diamond and U-turn bulbs, we have plenty of educational resources available on our social media channels and on the town website. Also going on Huntersville Concord Road, contractors are performing overnight construction on the road through December 19th. So the road will be closed from Glendale Drive to 2nd Street while the work is being performed, but that work is only overnight work, happening each night from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. The road will be closed between Glendale and 2nd Street during that window of time. And if you need to get through that area, the detour runs 2nd Street to North Church Street, to 4th Street to Glendale Drive, back to Huntersville Concord Road. Also coming up on this Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., we have a community meeting regarding the future of Church Street. It's at the David B. Waymer Recreation Center, which is located at 14008 Holbrooks Road. Our planning department has the opportunity to apply for federal grant funds that could extend Church Street between Delwood Drive and Holbrooks Road and extend sidewalks and multi-use pathways along these roadways. But before they apply for the funding, they're seeking resident input. Just a reminder that our leaf collection is ongoing and it runs through January 15th, 2025. Leaves are collected on the same day as your garbage pickup, and the guidelines to follow to ensure they are collected is you can place up to 10 bags of leaves next to your yard waste cart at the curb for weekly collection. More than 10 bags will not be collected. The leaves must be in a clear plastic or brown recyclable bags. Loose leaves left at the curb will not be collected. If your leaves are not picked up at the same time as your garbage, it is very likely that another truck is coming along to pick up those leaves on the same day as your garbage. Also coming up this weekend on Friday and Saturday, we have Holidays in Huntersville happening right over here at Veterans Park. This Friday evening from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a tree lighting at 6:30 p.m. And then Saturday from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. There will be live music, rides, pictures of Santa, craft and food vendors, ice carving, and more for everybody to enjoy. And as part of this event, during the event, there will be road closures associated with it to make sure everybody attending the event is safe. Main Street will be closed from Huntersville Concord Road to Bigham Street, and Maxwell Street will be closed from Huntersville Concord Road to Huntersville ARP Church. And as always, just a reminder of all the ways you can connect with us on the web, on our website, sign up for our newsletter, follow us on social, or download our app. Any questions?
Questions, board? Okay, thank you. Okay, we are going to begin with our public comments. We just have a couple. Frank Logano, you have 3 minutes. Please just state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Frank Logano. I'm a resident of Huntersville. I live in Birkdale at Devonshire Drive. Just to give you an idea of the traffic that I face coming in and out of there. I wanted to present some comments on the traffic situation, specifically Samford Road NC 73. 3 points I would like to make. One, there does not appear to be a traffic impact analysis report filed after the Solis Birkdale project in 2019. Spent a lot of time on the websites and making requests to some of the town staff trying to find a more up-to-date one, and I did not find one. So if I'm wrong in that assumption, please let me know. Without a traffic analysis report, there have been projects that have been approved impacting 73, North Cross 73, and my recommendation is that before another project that impacts North Cross 73 is approved, that a traffic analysis is done, or we curtail some of that development because of the current situation until the NC DOT project widening that occurs. The current traffic conditions are problematic. In the report that I did get for Solis, you can see that even 5 years ago, there were certain intersections that were getting levels of service of a D rating, and that was 5 years ago. So I think you can imagine what it's like today. The proof of any theory or tool is the results, and from my perspective, the only thing I saw in that report were peak impacts in the morning and the evening, but now you go out on that road at 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and there is traffic backed up from the light in Birkdale all the way to Norcross. So that, to me, does not look like a pretty good level of service. So my recommendation is, once again, that we really take a close look at some of any more new projects that are sanctioned. Also, there are recent changes to the Birkdale lights. I know NC DOT is responsible for that, but they did it incorrectly. And I'll send them a note, but just so you know, the north out of Birkdale does not always operate. Twice for myself, the straight across didn't go green at all. So, and also the removal of the green arrow coming out of Birkdale Parkway going east is causing confusion and a lack of throughput. They just did that, and I don't understand why they did that. I will give you kudo though. The light, the turning is left there was a big improvement. So once again, I'll just summarize. You can see this data for yourself. It's table 3 in that report, and I would recommend an analysis be performed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tony Burbrick. Is she in here? Is Tony here?
I have a meeting. That's my wife.
I don't know, is she here, though?
She is not here yet. She was in a meeting. And
Okay, so then you're Josh.
Joshua Burbick.
Okay, so you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Fred Brown Road, Joshua Burbick. I just want to say, as a retired police lieutenant, 30 years, I've done a lot of investigations. I've done a lot of borough ordinances that I wrote in the town that I work for. Never have I seen the word varying or maybe or leaving something up to the discretion of someone that works for the town. That doesn't work. When you talk about the law, when we're talking about borough ordinances, black and white. The troubling thing that I see, and I know I wanted to talk about the berm, and my wife wanted to talk about it. The last time we were in here for a meeting, we're taxpayers in this town, and we love this town. We came here for this town. My kids love coming back. They're grown for this town. But when I leave a meeting and I see the guy from Walden and whoever was with him working, and the town planner and the engineer who started this whole mess and is still employed by you people, yucking it up and high-fiving each other in the lobby, is it us against them, or are we taxpayers in this town?
Before you continue, just no personal attacks on anybody.
There's
So
not a
just
personal
continue
attack
with
on
your,
anyone.
with the facts.
Who did I make a personal attack?
I'm just preempting anything.
You don't have to preempt anything.
All right, thank you.
I know the rules.
Go ahead.
If you want to ask me a question, you can ask me a question.
No, go ahead.
Where would that fairness lie? What would that look like? I know in investigations and I know my wife done 30 years of fraud investigations. They're called red flags. And when you go back to see those red flags, you always remember that day. And I'll remember that day because now I know that we were always lied to from the beginning about what we were promised. And when I was promised something, I always expected it's coming. And when I'm promised an opaque screen and a berm that was supposed to be where it was supposed to be, why are we still coming here talking about it? Why did they just not do it? That's what I'm saying. But let's not forget those red flags. And I'm not pointing a finger at anyone, but if I think that's inappropriate conduct by your employees, it certainly is. And that's personal. If you want to take that as personal, I didn't name anybody, but that is not the right thing to do. And that does not appear correct, and I know it's not correct. So, thank you.
I apologize for being late. I teach class and there's traffic in between. Thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to point out that the reason for this particular rezoning application is for the slope of the berm and to what extent it meets the zoning ordinance, which is 3-to-1. We only know from our eye view to what extent it does meet it. Everything would tell us that a topographical survey would support where indeed you need to make it 2-to-1. Sorry, I'm out of breath. So I propose that the application is postponed until a topographic survey is performed by an independent professional landscape surveyor. This is going to be required of the builder when it's time to get their, sewer and other permits down the road, so it will be something they're required to do anyway. And that's the only way we'll know to what extent they need to meet the 2-to-1. And I want to remind everyone that we're here about the slope. This particular application has nothing to do with landscaping, and I cannot emphasize enough that we should not include landscaping as any of the measures or conditions of approving this, because that is a completely separate issue and one shouldn't be mixed up with the other. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. All right, I lost my piece of paper. All right, we are honoring Human Rights Month. Whereas December is observed as both Universal and National Human Rights Month, and December 11th is Human Rights Day, and whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on December 10th, 1948, establishes the principles that underscore the shared commitment of the global community to safeguard the rights of every individual, irrespective of nationality, ethnicity, gender, religion, or any other status. And whereas the observance of Human Rights Month throughout the month of December provides an opportunity for reflection, education, and action to promote and protect the rights and freedoms enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And whereas the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms contributes to social progress and better standards of living around the globe. And whereas the town of Huntersville is grateful for the work of our Human Rights Commission and all that they do to eliminate discrimination and promote universal human rights in Huntersville. And whereas the assurance of equitable treatment for all Huntersville's residents has been and will continue to be ongoing priority for the mayor's office. Now, therefore, I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim December as National Human Rights Month in Huntersville, North Carolina. Ms. McGinnis?
Hello, I would like to introduce you to Cassie Wilson. She's our lead auditor with Martin Starnes, and she's going to give a brief review synopsis of the 24 audit.
Thank you for having me this evening. We'll go through some highlights, and then if you have questions along the way, we can stop, discuss anything that you want, or we can go over it at the end, okay? So we issued an unmodified opinion, that is a clean audit report on the financial statements. We submitted those to the Local Government Commission and did receive the approval just last week and printed your copies. I believe Patty's going to take care of getting that information to you in electronic or bound form, but that has been completed as of now. We did have some performance indicators as a part of the reporting with the data collection or the data input that goes with your report to the LGC. We had the material adjustment for the construction in progress. That was just related to the grant that resulted in the asset for the town. And I believe Patty will be providing you with the letter on that that will go to the LGC regarding the details of that going forward. So the general fund expenditures, and again, this is June 30th, 2024. You had a total budgeted expenditures listed there, and then the actual expenditures that resulted in being under the budgeted amount of expenditures by over $41 million. Most of that difference was related to Public Works. Public Works, I believe, was about $33 million under the budget due to the timing with the capital projects, those breaking up between the years. Now for your budgeted revenues in the general fund, you can see what your total budgeted revenues were here, and then your actual revenues. That resulted in revenues over budget of over 13 million, almost 14 million there. And you'll see as you look in the financial statements that the majority of that will be resulting from miscellaneous revenues, like the contribution with the fire department and that exchange that happened during the year. So total revenues less your total expenditures and total transfers out gave a net change for the general fund of $14,447,631. So you did have appropriated fund balance planned for the general fund, but that was not needed. The available fund balance is the calculation that the LGC specifically asked to be reviewed and submitted to them as a part of the data input and that information that goes with your report. So this is their calculation, taking the total fund balance. They take out what is non-spendable. They also started looking at taking out the POW bill restricted balance as a part of this calculation. And then the stabilization by state statute is also a calculation from them that considers your receivables. And that leaves you with available fund balance of $61,734,757. That is a significant increase over the prior year. So over 15 million increase in available fund balance for the general fund. But when you look at the additional calculations that the LGC uses that available fund balance for, when it comes to what your general fund expenditures are, factoring in what you have for POW bill and any transfers out or debt that's issued during the year, we come out with a calculation that's the available fund balance by general fund expenditures. That percentage was increasing for 2024 up to 87.32. But you can see that's pretty comparable with the prior year, just due to the change in revenues and expenditures for the year. And so that's it as far as like an overview of the 6/30/2024 financials. But if you have any questions, specifically as you look at the management's discussion and analysis in the audit report, that gives you that overview. Those of you that are familiar with that, you'll see in there, we've added additional things for any major programs or major funds that were added for this year. Any details are provided within there. The breakout of your debt and capital assets, as well as the change and what affected the change. So if you're reviewing that and you have any further questions, don't hesitate. You can reach out to me directly or through Patty. If Patty has anything that she wants me to go over with you, I'm happy to do that as well. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the hard work of the finance department and answering all the emails and getting it done timely. It's very important, and I know Patty and I are very grateful that we can enjoy this Christmas holiday. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now may I have any agenda changes or a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
May I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Great, the motion carries unanimously. And now may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Item 9A, conduct a public hearing on the historical landmark designation of Caldwell Bradford School.
Thank you so very much. I'd like to start off by submitting my staff report into the record, and then I will pass it off to Tommy Warlick of the Historic Landmarks Commission.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Warlick. I am with the Mecklenburg County Historic Landmarks Department. I'm here with Stuart Gray, who is the director of our department, and we are here this evening to present the recommendation for your consideration from the Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission that you designate as a landmark the Caldwell Bradford School. And if I can get this to work, there we go. The Caldwell Bradford School, which is located on North Carolina Highway 73. Now, public education has been a prominent role in Mecklenburg history for more than 150 years, in part by the fact that Mecklenburg County was the site of the first public graded school in North Carolina in 1873. And as early as 1871, Mecklenburg County was hiring public school teachers to work here in northern Mecklenburg County. So as a result, you really have a very rare asset here on the outskirts of Huntersville. This is one of the county's last known surviving one-teacher schoolhouses. That was the primary means for delivering education up until the early 20th century. So think Little House on the Prairie, the Waltons, but you've got it here in your own backyard. It's located at the corner of Highway 73 and McCauley Road, but it's also uniquely situated as sort of the hole of the donut between two other very significant historic assets that had been designated by this council as landmarks. Just about a mile southeast of this property is the McCauley Road farmland that was designated back in 2007, and just across Highway 73, slightly catty corner of the school is the Cashin Moore Family Cemetery. So here within the span of about a quarter mile, you have this wonderful physical representation of the historical narrative of the early agrarian society that was here in northern Mecklenburg County. I'm going to go back here to our picture of the school. Now, the school was actually named for the two primary sponsors of the school, the Caldwell family and the Bradford family. Between the two of them, they were responsible for about 20 of the first students that attended the school. Not only did this school educate many of the children of Huntersville's early residents, it also employed as teachers women who hailed from families of some of North Mecklenburg's earliest settlers, families whose names are still familiar and prominent in the community today 100 years later. So people like the Jatone, the Knox, the Cashin, the Cowell, and the Bradford families all had women who taught in this school, the students that lived in this area. Now, admittedly, we don't know when the school was actually built. We do know that the property was specifically purchased in 1889 to build the school. We believe it had to have been built before 1903. So we think it's somewhere in that little sweet spot between 1889 and 1903. Now, one teacher schoolhouses like the Caldwell Bradford School served students of various ages in the immediate community, but only up until the 6th grade. At that point, they were sent off to another school. Caldwell Bradford was one of the smallest one-teacher schoolhouses in the entire county. Typically, its enrollment was only between 19 to 21 students, and because of its small size, it very quickly became a target for Mecklenburg County's Board of Education to close down as part of its post-World War I efforts to balance declining rural populations and increasing educational costs. That was only a more tempting choice as transportation improvements allowed students to be bused from greater distances to fewer but larger schools. Now, the Caldwell Bradford School closed in October 1923 because of this consolidation effort. The Caldwell Bradford School's students were then bused off to Caldwell Station School or to Huntersville High School. The vacant schoolhouse sat empty for a while, used for a while as a local community center until the late 20s when John and Lily Caldwell moved into the building and converted it into the craftsman-style bungalow that you see now in the late 1920s, and they lived there until the 1970s. The core of what was once the school is the north or the facade, the front part of the house that you see on the upper left-hand side, and the central part of the house. That's the east elevation you see down in the lower portion. That was the core of the original building. But obviously changes had to be made in order to turn this into a residence. And so you'll see in these two pictures here, what we don't have any actual photographs of the original school, but what we suspect is that one or more of these chimneys were added in the 1920s and 1930s. The rooms, one or two of the rooms that were on the western elevation, which is the picture that's on the upper portion of the screen up there, and the porch were enclosed as part of this turning the school into a residence in the 1920s. Now, we know, however, though, that those changes were made during that time period, which means that these changes themselves have become historically significant. They are now over 50 years old. So what you once had was just a rare one-teacher schoolhouse is now even more unique because it is now part of the dwindling inventory of century-old homes in northern Mecklenburg County. So for those two reasons, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission recommends to you, the Town Council, that this property be designated as a historic landmark. That's the extent of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information you may need.
No question. Commissioner Hunt?
If we adopt the ordinance, would this prevent future modification to the building?
It would not prevent future modifications of the building, but it would subject them to what we call the Certificate of Appropriateness process. That is a statutory process. We are required by law to have a quasi-judicial hearing held by the Historic Landmarks Commission to determine whether or not the requested changes are appropriate, historically, architecturally, consistent with what the building is. We don't have the ability to force them to make those changes. We also don't have the ability to keep them from tearing the building down ultimately. However, if they choose to do so, they lose the benefits of the tax deferrals that are available to them by state law. We can delay a demolition or a substantial alteration of the building for up to 365 days. So there is a bit of a disincentive there for the property owner to do that, or at least to work with us to come up with a solution that would meet the needs that they have, as well as maintaining the historical or architectural significance of the property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bergson?
Yeah, do you know, was this initiated by the property owners, or do you know if they're in support of the historic designation?
The property owners are in support of this. I'll let you know that this property actually came to our attention back in 2010-ish. That was when the Caldwell Station School, which was the school that effectively replaced this school, was named as a historic landmark by this council. And so we learned about this school in connection with researching that property. Over the course of the years, the property owner of the Macaulay Road farmhouse, that is the Bragg family. We work with them in designating that property and recommending that to you to designate back, goodness, that was also in the early 2010s, I believe. Mr. Bragg has since acquired this property. He purchased it about 5 years ago. He approached our staff a while back and said, is this property actually eligible or not? We went back and did our homework, and we decided, yes, it probably would be eligible if it's something you're interested in pursuing. And he said, yeah, it is something that we would like to pursue.
Commissioner Quarles? No? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
On to item 10A, consider adopting an ordinance on the historic landmark designation of Caldwell Bradford School.
Thank you so very much. Again, I would like to submit the staff report into the record, and at this time, we are requesting a decision on the landmark designation.
I would like to make a motion to consider the adoption ordinance on the historic landmark designation of the Caldwell Bradford School site located at 16401 Davidson Concord Road.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to item 10B, consider decision on petition R24-12, a request by TF Walden LP to rezone.
Good evening. We'd like to enter the staff report to the record. And again, we're here to discuss the Walden Berm revision. Just quick location, this is south of Raymond Church Road. We've gone over the brief history during the public hearing as well as the planning board meeting. Okay, here's the location of the berm, which is on the northwest part of the project, outlined in the red. The one outstanding request from the developers for a modification of the berm to allow for variable slopes along the width of the berm. Again, this is due to an oversight when the agreement to widen the buffer from 20 to 30 feet, as well as the installation of the berm a number of years ago. You cannot put the berm into the 30-foot width due to the design standards, so they're asking for modification of those. You would have to design a 32-foot wide area. Again, we're working with 30 feet, so they're asking for variable slopes. The developer and his team here is going to offer some additional conditions up as part of this, and there's some pictures, recent pictures of this. This has been just a couple weeks ago. And again, staff is in favor of this. I'm here to answer any questions, and again, the applicant and his team have some other concessions they'd like to offer up tonight.
Do you have any questions for staff? Commissioner Burson, you have a question for staff?
Just one right now.
Sure.
Can you explain the ordinance in regards to the landscaping of the berm, and if that is going to change, if the rezoning changes that, makes it different?
So currently, the berm is planted per the planting rates prescribed in Article 7 of the ordinance. Number of trees, number of shrubs per 1,000 square feet.
Do you mind just like kind of reminding me what the details of that is?
I cannot read my own note there. I believe it's five trees per 1,000 square feet, and there's a percentage of evergreens and deciduous trees, as well as the number of and quantity of evergreen shrubs that have to be in there.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Walsh?
As this process goes forward, who's responsible for inspection of that berm?
Town staff.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we can hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Appreciate it. As Brian had mentioned, we're here this evening to go ahead and see if we can help improve the situation that's been talked about here for a few weeks. We would like to offer an additional up to 100 arborvitae-type evergreen trees to be planted along the berm. That's in addition to what's already been planted. That's about a 67% increase in the number of trees that we would be adding to the area. We would also like to offer a similar count up to about 100 smaller juniper-type ground cover plantings that we think will help establish the berm stabilization a little bit easier and also help with the weed eradication by having that type of a ground cover versus more native grasses. So I'm here for any questions that you might have as well, but I wanted to bring those onto the record.
Commissioner Hunt?
Can you talk about the aerial survey and what details that provides, as well as information that might provide to the land surveyor?
So I'm not sure what you mean by aerial survey or to the land surveyor. There is no criteria that we had to survey the berm. We did go ahead and have our certified engineer do a survey of the berm, and that was, I believe, shots every 50 feet along the berm to come up with an established slope, berm height, berm width. And that's the as-built document that's been circulated before. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Commissioner Rivers?
I think I was under the impression, and maybe I'm wrong, as Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Hunt, that there was an aerial survey. You said you are unclear of that, or you were unsure that that was done? I'm sorry, maybe I missed that. It was an aerial survey or aerial pictures that were taken? Is that?
Well, there is, I want to be corrected here, there is a GIS system that is it the state that they monitor for aerial surveying, and we have utilized that in this process when we did the design work. Not the post-berm, that we did an actual on-site survey, but the design work, we did utilize the state aerial surveying system.
And it's something, and this is all new for me, I'm learning. Was there something printed or documented? Is there something tangible that could be seen from that report, or was that put into the survey?
I don't know what that would be, other than we utilized what is available to all public regarding the aerial survey system.
Okay. So,
And then we did create, separate from that aerial type of documents that are available, we created a true as-built document, which is going actually on-site, much better, much more detail.
so that goes into the as-built document?
That's the as-built.
Okay.
Understand.
Commissioner Quarles?
Was this project ever stopped, or was there a pause on the project itself, meaning the berm itself?
Yes, as far as the construction of it?
Yes.
Yes. Let me correct that. We were fairly well complete on the construction, and then we've now been monitoring and maintaining the erosion and plant control, as there's been some plants have been planted, and a few of those have died. We've replaced those. We also have been out more recently repairing some erosion on the berm, and then we were asked to pause on that until after this evening. So there are portions of the berm that are in somewhat of a under construction state at this point until the hearing was finished.
Yeah, I asked because I was out yesterday and I saw some parts of it was being worked on. Then as I walked further down, it was like, okay, it just didn't match the work itself.
That's correct. That was what happened. Yeah. Yes, Councilman.
Commissioner Brisman?
So yeah, I just have a few remaining questions. One is, so on the as-built in August, it had one of the berm breaks between like lots 272, 273, and that shifted in the last few months. So the November one, and when you go out there and look now, it's slightly different. Now, was that done based on follow-up after the aerials, or can you kind of like walk us through why that's slightly different?
Sure. back to the aerial type of photography, that's what we used as initial foundation to design the berm itself. And then when we went out to construct that, let me back up. There were 2 berm breaks that were shown on that design plan. One, I believe, at lots 272, 273, and then 274, 275, kind of splitting that bend in the berm up there. Oh, perfect, yeah. Kind of right there, and then over here. When we went out to construct the berm, and we had, obviously, on the ground, more pertinent and visual data, we did notice a low point on the neighboring property here, and so we, at the time of construction, felt it was prudent to put a berm break here to handle drainage off of this property to come right through here more quickly and conveniently. Also, there's a drainage easement on the back of these lots and a side easement here where we have an inlet that actually goes to a pipe system into the storm system. So to put the break there with the low point and with the construction of this inlet made much more sense to be much more efficient in getting the water flow off the properties behind us.
And so,
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that information conveyed to the landowners at the time that there would be the separate breaks?
Not at the time, but it was something that from a construction and maintenance and proper drainage standpoint, it needed to be done.
so the year, okay, say once all landscaping is planted, and there's kind of that 1-year period while the roots are being established and the berm is becoming more stabilized, how is that monitored during that time period to look for problem areas or things that need to be fixed or tweaked?
So there's a number of ways that that's handled. We have a landscaping company that I, as a developer for maintenance, that 1-year period, we employ, and they are continually out on site, monitoring the site for landscape issues. We also have a third-party, what we call stormwater management company, that goes out on a monthly basis, required by state to look at drainage issues, erosion issues on sites, protecting waters of the U.S. so that we're not having erosion and mud running off the site into the off-site creeks. And we have a number of storm management systems that work from the point of the berm all the way down to detention ponds before everything filters out into the creeks. So there's a whole storm management program that we monitor on a monthly basis. In addition to that, and more thoroughly, the town inspects the property once a month and provides us a report that then we follow up on that as well and make corrections to stormwater issues, inlet protections, erosion concerns. So really there's about a threefold overlay there that's helping protect everything and make sure on a monthly basis of any issues that are occurring that are corrected.
And I just want to confirm, has that been happening consistently that, I know from our staff side, but from your side and your checks and balances, has that monthly? And then the other one you said continually, but you didn't really specify what continually meant.
Well, it'll be once we turn it over to the HOA. In our CC&R documents that we have already recorded against the property, the HOA will be responsible to maintain all of these items as well.
I'm sorry, I meant like the construction period that's already behind us. Have you been consistent simply in, doing those monthly checks, and have there been months that have been skipped or anything like that?
No, our third-party contractor gives us monthly reports. We get the monthly reports from the town, and our contractor is out there. And actually, part of that work that's happening right now is to correct some of those issues that have come up in the last monthly report and in our monthly inspections. That's what we were told by town to halt on at this point.
Okay. And then I have one more question about the berm, and I know you're still working on one of them. Are the slopes right now, especially on the one, are kind of, and by slope, I mean where the break is and kind of going down into the break is fairly steep. Is that going to be changed at all once that break is kind of finalized?
We're actually enamoring that area with some, what we call riprap, which is more of a rock. It is actual rock that's placed in there to help water from eroding the sand or the ground in that area. So we are going to firm that up in a much stronger basis, as we've now had a number of months to see how this has held up in certain areas. Where it hasn't held up well, we're enamoring those areas in a stronger manner.
Okay. And then my last question, and again, this is kind of going back to the trees and the landscape and in the ordinance. And I'm sorry, this is something I was just kind of realized earlier. So staff earlier said that the ordinance requires 5 trees per 1,000 square feet. And I had received information, or the board had received information, sometime this week, that there's currently 3 trees per 1,000 square feet, and that the additional that we're asking for would bring it up to an additional 2 per 1,000. But is that accurate? Because if that sounds like it's not currently meeting the ordinance, and I kind of want to check on that.
Yeah, honestly, I can't speak to that. I know our landscape plan was submitted and approved, and so I know we have a number of different types of what you might call a tree or plantings per 1,000 square feet, and we were just going to add 2 more trees to every 1,000 square feet.
Okay, so the number that's in an email that I'm looking at right now, where it said it was 3 trees per 1,000 is what's there currently, is that possibly a typo, or is that correct?
I believe our landscape plans did say 3 trees, so I don't know.
And he's correct. I spoke incorrectly earlier. It's 3 trees per 1,000 square feet is the requirement.
Okay. So it's 3 trees.
So it's 3 trees, which we have per 1,000 square feet. We're adding 2 more, so it's about a 67% increase.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because the numbers weren't mathing correctly, and that's what I was trying to figure out.
Any other questions? Okay, are we ready for a motion? All right. Can we have a motion for item 10A?
So I make a motion to approve rezoning petition R2412 TF Walden LP to rezone approximately 21.509 acres south of Rama Church Road from neighborhood residential conditional district to neighborhood residential conditional district to modify the berm dimension standards in Article 7.5.4 with the following conditions. The modification request to allow for varying berm slope widths ranging from 2.1 to 3.1 is approved. The developer shall plant a minimum of 75 additional arborvitae or other similar evergreen trees on the crown of the berm by February 1st, 2025. The developer shall provide a maintenance warranty for 50% of the value of the additional trees to be planted for a period of 1 year from the date of planting. The responsibility for maintenance of the trees shall be assigned to the HOA at the end of the warranty period. During the tree maintenance warranty period, the developer shall be responsible for monitoring and removing any existing invasive Johnson grass. This responsibility shall be assigned to the HOA at the end of the warranty period. The developer shall install a drainage swale to collect water for drainage through the berm breaks. The drainage swale shall be installed in accordance with all applicable town ordinances and policies, as well as approved plans for the project. The developer shall provide a maintenance warranty for 100% of the value of the drainage swale for a period of 1 year from the date of installation. The responsibility for maintenance of the drainage swale shall be assigned to the HOA at the end of the warranty period. The developer shall submit a revision to approved plans, RTAP, to update the preliminary plan set to conform with these changes. The developer shall address all other minor staff comments in the staff report. In considering the petition, it is consistent with policy LU 11.1 in the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan. It is reasonable and in the public interest to approve the petition because the berm modification does not erode the efficiency and intent of the berm, and the additional evergreen trees will enhance the screening of the berm from the adjacent properties.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Bursman? Do you have any other discussion?
Yeah. Just one more thing. So the placement of the trees, If there are sections of the berm where it's more beneficial for adjacent property owners, is that something that you're taking into consideration?
Good evening, Susan Irvin, representing the applicant. So I just want to make sure I understand the question. The question is that in determining where the trees are placed, when they go out with the landscape architect to do that, will they be placing those in a way that is most beneficial to the adjoining owners?
Partially. So we've kind of, the information we kind of have is that, one property owner might not need, or might not need, not the correct word, but might not want as many along their side as one of the others. So I didn't know if that's something that, when deciding the placement, can be taken into consideration.
Well, just to be clear, we were not proposing to plant any trees on the adjoining property. Okay.
No, yeah. If I said that, I misspoke.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He should have started.
We would violate, well, I guess we wouldn't. We're already meeting the code of 3 trees per 1,000. So we can certainly take a look at that if that's the direction. We just need to be careful and make sure the landscaper will be really the one to kind of decide if that's a reasonable, for the life of the plants, request. If we have too many in one area, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
We'll certainly take a look at it.
That's fair enough. So I just want to pass on that I know that area where one of that bigger berm break is an area that I think some folks would want to have looked at, as if that will work, that would be appreciated.
Commissioner Quarles?
Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting with the residents, as well as communicating back and forth, trying to collaborate to make a win-win for everyone. And one thing that was asked, and I put notes in my phone as I asked the question, was what would make a win-win? And it was say, hey, 20 trees on one part of the property. The other was juniper or some type of ground cover to prevent the erosion. And I want to thank you for want to add not just 20 trees, but up to 100 trees. The juniper, I think, will be a win-win for everyone, not just for the residents in the berm, but at some point in time, this is going to be passed on to the HOA. It will save them a lot of money because they won't have to worry about weed control, chemicals going into the other neighbor's property to get onto the farm. So I want to commend you for that. With the junipers, will you be heavily mulching that with pine needles? And I'm asking that because I know that juniper and pine needles prevent weeds as well.
Yes, I think as you've seen out there that we do have some pine needle already out there, and we will certainly, as we add these new materials, we're going to make sure we refurbish that pine needle material as well.
Okay. That was it. I just try to find a win-win. I think adding the additional trees, I think you've gone above and beyond. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Rivers?
I had the opportunity of going out as well on Sunday, and when I went out, I was very concerned. From what I saw, I did see the erosion. I saw a lot of things that were unkept. I did see the pine needles that were there and everything, but the break in the berm was concerning. So I was happy to know that when Mayor Clark and Commissioner Quarles had went out on Monday, that's being resolved. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. I too want to ensure that there is a win-win for everyone. I think, coming into this, you're looking at it as if, it's just a berm, but we have to consider this is property, and it's important because some people, this is generational property for some of the adjacent property owners. So it's just important that, there is a win-win for everyone. I do commend you for hearing and being able to compromise and willing to compromise. I appreciate that. I just want to ensure that once if this approves tonight, that we will continue to ensure that the berm is taken care of and looked after, as well as, not with just the developer. How long will you all be able to ensure that, well, I guess, I'm sorry, let me slow down. How long will you all be, over ensuring the berm is taken care of, if that makes sense?
For the town-required one-year maintenance period.
One-year maintenance, and then the HOA will take over. So I just want to ensure that that is done. I think that has been the consensus for everyone. So again, I just want to commend you for compromising on that, and thank you.
Any other discussion? Oh, Commissioner Bergsman?
Since I ended up with a question instead of my discussion. No, the only thing I want to say is, and I'll be very open and transparent, I am a member of the HOA in Walden. So this is almost in my backyard, and I just want to emphasize that, with all our applications and projects we look at, I always think of, is this something I would be okay with if it was my backyard? Now, this is the closest one to that, and yes, I am. I feel that enough of the asks and requests have been addressed, and I just want to, say that that's all.
I know the motion said up to 75 trees, but it doesn't say, and you offered the juniper. Can we add up to 75?
It's at a minimum of 75 trees.
Junipers.
Oh, to add. Okay, yeah, do you want that added in?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you got it.
Yes, as I committed earlier, we'll do the juniper ground covering as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so, Emily, if that gets added in, how do we do that?
You just can add it into the motion, but I would suggest clarifying that that has been vetted and that the berm can handle an additional 75 ground coverings of that nature. Has the consultant been involved in that determination?
Yeah, it will not damage the berm's integrity.
In which case, you can, as part of your conditions, incorporate a minimum of 75 juniper ground coverings.
Okay, so do I need to repeat the whole motion or just that one?
And that you'd like to revise your motion to incorporate that as a condition.
Okay, and is that something that's in agreement with? Okay, so yeah, so I revise and that
You do
would,
want to make sure that the second still remains, whoever made the second.
okay, so I revise, hold on a second, need the glasses. I guess it would be condition 2 that the developer shall plant a minimum of 75 additional arborvitae or other similar evergreen trees and a minimum of 75 ground juniper? Juniper. Well, there's 2 types of juniper. There's the trees and the ground cover. Juniper ground cover.
Discussion. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to item 10C, consider a resolution declaring certain real property at 16215 Amberfield Drive and 16209 Amberfield Drive and the Harvest Point subdivision as surplus property. Mr. Williams?
Commissioners, pretty much everything you said is what's here before you tonight. I have a quick map just to show you where these are in the Harvest Point subdivision. The town's had them for a while. None of our current staff are really clear on how they came to be with the town, other than just a designation by the developer as a gift. Ultimately, we're not using them. There's been talk through the years, but in order for the town to do anything with the lots, they need to be declared surplus so they can be disposed of at a future sale.
Any questions? So I'm just going to clarify, because this is for the people who haven't been discussing this. By doing this, we'll make an opportunity for someone else to purchase these lots in the future.
Correct. If the town were to get an offer, which it did have an offer years ago, but it never got to the process of the town being able to adequately and appropriately legally dispose of the property. So this just gives the town that option should an offer come forward.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, we have a motion for item 10C.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution declaring certain real property at 16215 Amberfield Drive and 16209 Amberfield Drive in the Harvest Point subdivision as surplus property.
May I have a second?
A second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 10D, consider approving corrective action plan for 2024 audit items.
Yes.
Ms. McGinn.
As discussed with Cassie earlier, we had a material issue with some capital that wasn't put into CIP, construction in progress. So what we have to do for the LGC is do a corrective action plan, which I've done, and then the board, Anthony and I, have to sign the form, and then I'll submit that to the LGC, but it did not change us from having an unmodified opinion.
Any questions on that? Okay, may I have a motion for item 10D?
I make a motion to approve the corrective action plan for 2024 audit items.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 10E, consider adopting resolution to remove Gilead Road widening project from the State Transportation Improvement Plan.
Hey, good evening. I'm here as a follow-up to a pre-meeting that we held in August where we presented the progress and status of the Gilead Road widening project for the STIP. And I've submitted a letter and a resolution to you all to have that removed from the STIP, given that it is contrary to our adopted recommendations in the downtown plan to not widen Gilead Road. So I'm asking you to consider the adoption of the resolution in your packet to remove Gilead Road widening project. I've got a couple of slides if you care to review what we discussed back in August. The project formally is U5807. It was submitted as a widening project to increase capacity and relieve congestion at the intersection here and along the road. The adopted design will meet a level of service D at the intersection and would require several buildings to be removed. And in contrast to that, our adopted plans, including our downtown plan adopted in 2023 and previous downtown plans, call for Gilead Road not to be widened. So the resolution asks that we remove it from the STIP, and if you were to approve that resolution, we would move forward with submitting that request to CRTPO. Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Hunt?
I have two questions. Could you just review specifically any of the buildings we might lose if we were to actually widen the road?
Sure, we would lose part of this building. We would lose 760 Craftworks. I'm sorry? Part of DPK, the round part at the front, I believe. Cash-ins would have been impacted, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question, can you talk about what we're going to do to address the traffic in lieu of doing this project?
Certainly. So we've hired a consultant to analyze the ability to create a roundabout at that intersection. If that is not done, we also have plans to consider an additional right turn lane on 115 onto Gilead Road. But we can continue to examine other options, or we can move forward with the roundabout plan that we've set in motion. Yeah.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bergsman? Oh, question, as I said.
I was just wondering, so since we have the two new roundabouts, north and south of that intersection, there data, or is there a way of tracking if that is helping detour any traffic around that intersection? If there's been any changes to the amount of cars that go through there, or?
I don't know, Stephen, if you can talk to, I don't know that we've done any post-construction traffic counts of how that's diverting traffic, but I think that's certainly something that we should do if we haven't done already.
You almost got out of here with that.
Good evening. A post-study of traffic patterns in the, I'll say in the general area has not been completed. We have conducted a couple of traffic counts in the area, but not a comprehensive system analysis pre and post project.
Any other questions? Okay. Can I get a motion for item 10E?
I make a motion to approve Resolution R 2024-42, a request by the Huntersville Town Board of Commissioners to the North Carolina Department of Transportation to remove Project U-5807 from the State Transportation Improvement Program.
May I have a second?
I second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Item number 11, closing comments. Commissioner Rivers. Commissioner Walsh. Commissioner Hunt. Commissioner Quarles. Commissioner Bursman. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.